Torts time, baby.
It's Torts time.
I really loved these quotes.
I got the sense pretty much everyone did.
Yeah. And I know.
The guy knows how to play to the media when he has to.
He does. He absolutely does. And listen, I am not like...
And the fans.
I do believe that if you're going to be the try-hard culture team... Now, we've pointed out, you at the end of the show last week, I think or when we were 2 days ago, whenever we were last together, you did a good job of like pointing out how things are not what they were when the team looked like, oh yeah, they're going to the playoffs. Like they were getting great goaltending up until about January 20th. We all know what happened until even after.
Yes, yeah, I would say they were getting great goaltending probably until around like mid-February.
It was Erson's run of like not looking great. It's funny because it's the 15th. It's the day after Coots gets named captain, so that's why I keep naming the date. But it just shows like that is really when it starts. It's not anything on Coots. I just think it's funny. That's really kind of when it starts. Is mid-February, like you said. So really up until then they were getting really strong goaltending. That was probably always going to happen after Carter Hart takes his leave of absence. Like, okay, the backup is now thrust into the number one role, and we don't have a plan C.
Yeah, there is no backup to the backup.
He has arrived. It was just like,
who
saw this one
coming? They did have a plan C.
Yeah, who saw this one coming? You point like, okay, Travis Konechny, he's hurt now. He's the best player all year. The defense thoroughly depleted. The goaltending, we know what the issue. All the things
partially by choice and partially just by accident.
Injury.
Yeah.
Like all of the things that have happened along the way. Like this is not the team that we thought in the beginning of February. It's like 89% to get in the playoffs or whatever they were. I get it, but I do think if you're going to be the try hard culture team, you're the team that overcomes that. And Tortorella kind of spoke to that. Like, I do think, as much as I believe he deserves the Jack Adams, we should put some of the team's failings on him too, because he's going to get all the credit. This is a team without a star. So all the reasons they shouldn't be where they are, he gets the credit.
Yes.
Well, finish the job or I'm going to blame you. And he kind of spoke to that. Like, he needs to be the one that gets the team ready, or at least does a better job of preparing them. I just really, really appreciated what he said. Like, we're not ready to be better yet. And no, you're not.
That's partially on me. I mean, that's a criticism I've seen, and a legitimately fair criticism I've seen on social media, because there's a lot of unfair criticism you see on Twitter, but this is a legitimate point that some people have made, that basically like Torts is a genius, and not in like the good way, but he's a genius because the way he's been able to spin this is, if the team wins, Torts is just such a great coach because the team stinks. And if the team loses, it's not Torts' fault. It's because the team stinks. And Torts has played into that. He has, on multiple occasions, fairly regularly, in fact, talked about how, like, we're not a team with stars. We're not necessarily ready to do this. Like, he has downplayed things. And if you believe in the idea of, like, Torts the Machiavellian puppet master, which I don't, but if you do, and there are people who are very, very anti-Torts, they would look at all of that talk in the media from Torts being a way to basically put himself into a no-lose situation in terms of perception. And while I don't fully buy into the idea that like Torts is actually playing this purposeful, like, I just think he's being honest, and the honest evaluation is that he doesn't think the team is all that talented, because I agree with him. I don't think they are.
Eyes.
Yeah, like, I don't think they are.
It's what we've been saying for years. It's why they're rebuilding.
But I can't deny that he does benefit from a public perception standpoint by presenting the Flyers as not that good, because then the logical follow-up, which he doesn't even have to say, is that, well, if they're not that talented but they keep winning, why is that? It's probably a lot to do with the coach, and it makes the coach look good. So what I thought was interesting about these comments was that, not that this was the first time, because he's admitted mistakes before. He obviously admitted that he went off the rails a little bit with the Sandstrom thing last week, most recently, but he's done it before. But this time, especially coming after Monday's presser, where Monday's presser after the game, he very much pinned it all on the players. It was, the team is soft, they don't have balls, there are guys on this team that just aren't ready for this. It was very much all on the players, and it's their fault. He very clearly made a point to reposition it as, yes, the players are not ready, but I am not blameless in that. In fact, it is my job to get them ready and to get them to recognize the importance of these games and what is different about these games versus games in January. And clearly the results show I have not done a good enough job. And if there's one thing that Philadelphia fans will always love, it's accountability. And Tortorella very openly showed that accountability yesterday, which I think plays into why the press conference was so well received.
And that's like, if I was going to have a criticism of John Tortorella, there is an element of like, you will come out and demand accountability of everyone. And then, listen, I guess I'm going to buy the I had family in the stands thing and I wanted to go see them. And that's why I gave you my assistant coaches. But the circumstances of those games are kind of like, you couldn't just go to dinner after, you know? Like, there's restaurants in Raleigh, I'm pretty sure, man. But like, if you're going to always, like, if you're going to throw the captain under the bus, you need to be out there and take the questions too. And your 45-second pressers and your no-show pressers, that is a lack of accountability. And I know there's a lot of people, I have friends, when I say this stuff to them, they're like, Bill, you're in media. We don't give a shit. And I'm like, I know it's a little different for me.
Right.
Because like, and listen, I've said about coaches, like, I think press conferences are mostly pointless, but like my partner here, it's his job to go and get those quotes. And if those quotes were not in the stories, it's a service to the fans. You don't like, you know, if the fans didn't want it, there'd be no demand for you to write it, you know? And it is his job to address the fans.
I got the sense that there were a not insignificant amount of fans, particularly on social media, obviously, because they're the ones I deal with, but even in our chats that we see during the shows, I got the sense that there were people who were legitimately annoyed that Tortorella seemed to be ducking press conferences after losses, you know.
In which his strategic decisions helped shape the game.
Yes, the big thing was the 3-on-3 overtime decisions, and a coach should probably answer to that. I mean, I remember, and I said this on the show, I felt bad asking Brad Shaw about the 3-on-3 overtime combinations.
He didn't make the decision.
Because my thing was, and I prefaced my question to him that maybe this is a better question for Torts, but basically, like, I got to ask somebody, so I'm asking you. The idea is, like, if the coach is going to make that decision, he should either stand by it or say, in retrospect, I wouldn't have done that. I don't get the sense that all fans care. There are some fans that I think there's two contingents of fans that don't care. The one contingent of fans are the fans that just think Torts is God and that everything he does is great because he is all that is good and pure about old school toughness hockey. Yeah. So it's like, oh, these whiny media people, you know, they can shut the hell up because Torts is our hero. And like, they are just all on the pro Torts bandwagon and they're going to say whatever Torts does is fine. And that's fine. I mean, I get
legitimate.
It. Yeah, like I get it.
He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's the other contingent that just doesn't like the media.
Yes.
And basically thinks that if we want something or if we complain, that it's obviously our fault because we just suck at everything. I mean, that's a sentiment, not just in sports media, but it's a sentiment in sports media. And in my opinion, and this is maybe me being a little bit of an elitist asshole, I think a lot of it is jealousy. I think a lot of those people deep down think they could do a better job than the media people. So therefore, because they are jealous that they don't have that job, they constantly criticize the media people who they think they could be better at the job than.
These are the people who, one, will say, I don't care what a coach says, and also will be, well, if I was there, I would have stood up and told him he can get right up and fuck himself. No, you wouldn't. You'd be escorted out.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, listen, but it's not the most important thing in the world that he talks to the media, but there's a small part of me that is like accountability for thee, but not for me. And these quotes were kind of him taking some accountability. Maybe to some it's too little too late. Maybe it's like, well, the wheels have fallen off now. So, but I do see a little bit after the game, he put all the onus on the players. And now it's like, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of the weight off of them and maybe free them up to play some good hockey for this last couple weeks of the season. I do see a little bit of method to the madness here.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to read some of the quotes because they are, I guess, enlightening. You know, it's my job to make sure they understand where we're at now. We're not regular season now. We have put ourselves in this spot. Let's not fade away and say, you know what? We're not even supposed to be here. That sucks. We're here. And that's where I think I've done a shitty job. Now, that is this is why I do actually want to have a conversation about this, because like it is absolutely accountability, but it is also accountability in the sense of like it's a little bit.
It's like it's on them, but ultimately I'm responsible for them.
Yes.
Like you blame the parents for a kid that does something stupid kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So
like they're fucking up, so that's on me.
It's a little patronizing,
Yes.
a little, but it is still accountability. And I think Tortorella definitely views it as it, because he's looking
it's
at
the most we're gonna get.
He's looking at it as, look, I was not wrong to call out the players. They are playing like crap. And I think fans would agree they are playing like crap right now.
It's not
good. But it is also the coach's job to get the players to not play like crap. And clearly,
for as much credit as we're going to give Torts, we have demanded the jobs of coaches who have failed to prepare their. I mean, for how long were slow starts a problem? Through like several different coaching staffs, and we kept being like, "What's the matter with these coaches that they can't get this team ready to play?" This is kind of an extension of that, and totally different regime, but it is like I want to blame. I don't think it's one or the other. It is the coach and it is the players.
I think it's all like, that's why it's tough, and that's why like having these debates on social media is difficult, because it's not just one thing. And by the nature of something like Twitter, everything gets boiled down to one thing. It's like if you're an anti-Torts guy, then it's all Torts' fault. If you're a Torts is great, but the players don't have heart because this is all residual from the bad years of the team not giving a shit.
Claude Giroux's fingerprints are all over this.
Exactly. Then it's Torts is getting everything he can out of this bunch of bums, and now this bunch of bums is choking at the worst possible time. Whereas, like, I'm sure it's a combination of a lot of things. I'm sure that John Tortorella could be finding better strategic ways to motivate the guys. I'm sure there are some guys who simply can't give more because they're too injured or too exhausted. I'm sure there are other guys who can give more, but they're either stuck in their heads, they're overthinking things, they're just in a rut right now, like guys like Joel Farabee. So it's a lot of things at once, but I think it's good that John Tortorella, by his own admission, acknowledged that, you know, he's not blameless here. He's part of the, like, if you're going to give him credit for the good things, you got to say Torts needs to do a better job, just like the players do, at closing this friggin' thing out.
We all silly like the mayor.